Okay, I got to tell you, as a funny moment here, Democrats are attacking Bernie Sanders' wife for going on Russian television and explaining why open primaries allow Democrats or allow Republicans in to stop Bernie Sanders, and why supposedly that's a good thing. They're Democratic, but what it actually means is that the Republicans come in and steal it from Bernie. And the Democrats are circulating this. How dare she go on Russian television? The clips from 4 years ago when they were totally fine with Bernie Sanders going on Russian television. Good gracious. Oh, these people. Okay, if you're on the phones, stand by. I will get to your phone call. I absolutely promise. But right now, John Conradi is joining me with the Campaign for Sustainable Prescription Prices. John, how are you?
Good. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I have been pitched now on a bunch of competing Republican plans on prescription drugs. And when my buddy Brian reached out to me and asked if I'd have you on, I was like, yes, I would actually like to have on everybody to discuss their different plans. And this one intrigues me because it's a Chuck Grassley plan, and I'm a huge fan of Chuck. So wanted to get you on here and let's discuss this issue, because we saw the Democrats on stage last night essentially want to take over drug companies right as they're researching the coronavirus, and Republicans don't seem to want to take over the drug companies.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And there's so many of these bills that are circulating around in Washington. And one of the things we're really trying to do is say, hey, look, here are the pieces that have crossover in almost all of these bills that are part of the Grassley Wyden plan that Republicans and Democrats can get behind, that the White House has endorsed. Secretary Azar just yesterday on Capitol Hill reiterating the White House's support for these solutions. These are the things that we really want folks to focus on and to actually get in the end zone, because time is running out, as you know, with political season heating up.
Mm-hmm. Well, so what are the terms of this plan? What role would the government have in dealing with setting the prices?
Yeah, so there are essentially a few key elements. So one is capping out-of-pocket costs for seniors. There's pretty widespread agreement that that's something we can do to provide relief for Medicare Part D beneficiaries. And reforming the Part D program to give Big Pharma some skin in the game, to provide a disincentive against price gouging. So that would mean at a certain phase of coverage that Big Pharma, not just taxpayers and health plans, would pick up some of the tab. And so that provides them kind of a natural disincentive against price gouging. These solutions include other things to increase competition, support greater use of things called biosimilars, to increase transparency on how drug companies set prices on their products. And then finally to say, and this one is the one that's really important because it gets attacked by pharma the most, to say that the federal government won't provide an unlimited subsidy for price hikes, and that that taxpayers will only reimburse through the Part D program brand name drug companies for prices that for price increases that stay below the rate of inflation.
Well, you know, so I'm glad to hear you say that, because one of the concerns that I hear a lot from people regarding pharmaceutical pricing and government intervention is the very same thing with the student loan industry, that it has allowed prices of colleges to escalate in this country above the rate of inflation because the government's going to subsidize everything. And there are a lot of people say, well, if the government starts subsidizing drug prices, that's exactly what we're going to see there as well.
Absolutely, especially if you do something like cap out-of-pocket costs for seniors, then drug companies, especially ones who sell a lot of product to Medicare Part D beneficiaries, have every incentive to hike prices to the sun because it'll be taxpayers picking up the tab and not patients. And so that's why it's so important that a solution that caps out-of-pocket costs for seniors is coupled with these solutions to give pharma some skin in the game and to provide disincentives against unlimited price hikes.
Now, one of the things that Democrats very frequently say is that we essentially cover the costs for other countries, that other countries, we should be able to buy from Canada, or we should be able to drug reimportation, things like that, except the math just never seems to add up, because you've got government taxpayer subsidized prescription drugs in Canada, and they say that, well, we're paying an overinflated price here because these other governments demand price controls. They make a very convoluted argument, and I'm probably even making it more convoluted, but where do you draw the line in getting the government involved in this stuff, particularly when other governments are subsidizing so much and demanding control so much that American taxpayers do feel like they're picking up a lot of the higher costs?
Well, that's why there's so much more we can do without direct government intervention to start out with that just hasn't been done because the pharmaceutical industry has had so much power in Washington for so long. Things to clamp down on how the industry games things like the patent system. Senator Cornyn from Texas has great legislation to start kind of peeling away at some of these tactics that big pharmaceutical companies use to prevent competition from coming to the market. There are so many things we can do from a competition and transparency standpoint that would help market forces bring prices down and slow the rate of price increases without kind of getting into all of that.
Well, yeah, and that's a great point, because we see this across the board where corporations, to some degree, it's easier and cheaper and more efficient for them to pay lobbyists to go to Washington to get loopholes and special protections than to have to innovate anymore. And we see that across the entire Fortune 500 industry happening, and also within the pharmaceutical industry, and people buying up patents and then jacking up prices who never actually invented stuff and causing all sorts of fallout and disrupting free market forces.
There's such a good example, and that's Humera, which is the best. Every one of your listeners has probably seen the almost limitless ads that its maker, AbbVie, runs on television promoting it. But Humera is the best-selling prescription drug in the United States, and its manufacturer has filed 247 patent applications and has over 160 issued patents just on this one drug. And some of these patent applications are for things as silly as changing the pill casing or a pill color. But they are... But it's ludicrous. But the way that the patent system is set up, because of the influence, the long-time entrenchment of the industry, and their work to keep competition at bay, AbbVie has been able to kind of get away with this and extend what's considered a usual period of exclusivity for a truly new invention, which is 20 years, to now 39 years. With no competition at all in the marketplace for Humera.
Wow. So what's the state of play on the legislation within Congress right now? Or is it a proposal, or has the legislation been written?
Yeah, so there was Senator Grassley introduced a plan last summer with Senator Wyden, bipartisan plan that passed out of the Senate Finance Committee that he's the chairman of, an important panel there in Washington with bipartisan support. It's continuing to gain more support. Even in recent weeks, Senators McSally and Ernst have come out and said that they support the plan. Senator Collins at the end of last year said she supports it. But Grassley is having trouble getting the Senate to act on these bipartisan solutions. And so he's really calling on more Republican lawmakers to come out and get vocal about it. He's asked the White House to do the same, and the White House has responded and has had Secretary Azar going out and talking about how important this is. The president in the State of the Union address brought this up and said, get bipartisan legislation to my desk and I'll sign it. But really, we need folks like Senator Loeffler, Senator Perdue to also weigh in and say, hey, we got to act on behalf of Georgia patients and get this stuff done.
If somebody wants to learn more about the plan, where should they go?
CSRXP.org is our website. We have information there on some of these bipartisan solutions. And another thing to point out, getting back to the earlier point I made, is some of this stuff is actually in the House Democrats' bill. Obviously, their bill goes way further, but there is true bipartisan agreement on some of these underlying key elements that will provide relief for patients. And if the Senate acts, there's a very good chance that House Democrats will play ball and get these things in the end zone.
Well, the Democrats in the House never seem to miss an opportunity to push things to extreme these days.
Yeah.
Well, look, good luck to you.
I think they'd be in a really tough place, if there was a real chance to get something bipartisan done for patients.
Yeah,
to not do it.
Listen, John, thank you very much for stopping by. And so it's csrp.org if people want to find more information.
CSRXP.
CSRXP. All right. CSR. I'm writing this down. All right. I will send people there. John, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on this. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. John Conradi, CSRPX.com. He's the spokesperson for the Campaign for Sustainable Prescription Pricing, and it's RX pricing. And if you want to learn more, go to their website, csrxp.org. It is Chuck Grassley's legislation with Ron Wyden of Oregon. I believe Mark Meadows in the House also has a plan that Republicans in the House are pushing, and they're trying to pick up support in the Senate for this one. Now, the phone number here, if you want to be a part of the program. 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. Let's go to the phones here. David in Dalton, you're going to be next. Welcome.
Hey, good morning. The last couple of months, you've made some comments on Twitter about Biden and how he's a good man. Most recently, there were some people making fun of him for his comment about he's running for the Senate. It was a faux pas, and you were like, he's a good man. Stop making fun of him. My point is
elder
that
abuse.
Joe Biden is,
It's elder abuse what they're doing to the man.
Elder abuse. And then you said he's a good man, and you said that more than once. He is pro-abortion. Abortion for liberals is not a political viewpoint. It is a way of life. The murder of children in the womb is a way of life for liberals and progressives. And because if somebody supports that, they are not a good man. This is not about immigration where you can say, well, we just agree to disagree on immigration, but he's still a good man. This is not a political point. This is a way of life. The murder of children in the womb is a way of life, and he supports that. He cannot be a good man by that criteria.
Well, look, on the moral level, I understand what you're talking about, but at the civic discourse level, we in this country have vehement disagreements, and whether or not and I agree with you on abortion. That's why I always refer to it as killing kids as opposed to the euphemistic abortion. But at the civic level in this country, we should be able to engage with people we disagree with, because ultimately, every single one of us is a sinner. Joe Biden's a sinner. Joe Biden believes that killing kids is acceptable, and that's sinful behavior. I'm a sinner too, and I'm not going to call when we all fall short of the glory of God. I'm not going to engage and say, well, I'm a better person than him because I got different sins than him, and mine don't involve killing kids. Yeah, I'm totally opposed to abortion. Won't vote for a pro-abortion candidate. But that doesn't mean that in civic discourse and relationships with other Americans, we should say, well, I can't have a relationship with this sinner because his sin is really bad compared to mine. I got to be able to have a relationship with him. And in the grand scheme of things, Joe Biden is a person whose company you would enjoy. He's a good guy. His wife is a fine person. I disagree with him vehemently on a host of issues, including moral issues. But to say that I can't be friends with or consider Joe Biden a good guy because he supports killing kids, yeah, it's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Can I be a friend then with an atheist who denies the existence of Jesus? Can I be a friend with can I be a friend with someone who is of a different religion who denies that Jesus is God? Because that seems to be the worst thing from a moral perspective, is to deny the reality of God. And I think at a civic level, you've got to be willing to be friends with people with whom you disagree, even on things like abortion. And to get upset when I say that Joe Biden's a good guy when I'm talking. And, I've gotten this from a number of people of late, that you can't say someone's nice or good. Someone got mad at me the other day for saying I thought Stacey Abrams was a nice person. I've been around her several times. She was always very nice. And she's always very nice to other people. And I know enough people who are really terrible to those who don't matter, people that they're never going to see again. And particularly in politics, I see this all the time on the left and the right. People are just nasty to people who are of no need to them. And I've seen Stacey Abrams interact with people who are of no use to her, and she's very nice to them. She strikes me as a nice person. I got lectured the other day, you can't call her a nice person, for the exact same reason, by the way. It was abortion and socialism. You can say she's a pleasant person. No, I'm going to say in the civic vernacular of our age, she's a nice person. Joe Biden's a good person. I disagree with them, but I have been in their presence, and it was enjoyable. I've been in the presence of plenty of politicians who it's not pleasurable to be in their presence. They are deeply mean people. They are people with no sense of humor who cannot laugh at themselves and cannot relate to other people. But I'm not going to say that, Joe Biden is a monster because he supports abortion, because he's a sinner just like you and me. And I'm not going to say that my sins are better than his, therefore I can't have a relationship with that terrible person because he supports abortion. I know a lot of people who support abortion. They are wrong, and I believe they support the killing of children. But if I decided I wasn't going to have a relationship with people who believe that, half this country would be precluded from my friendship. And how would I ever persuade them that they're wrong if I didn't build a relationship with them? At some point, we've got to be relational to be able to change people's minds. And that means we're able to relate to people and understand their position, and they're to be able to understand ours. And I think it's deeply notable, in fact, in this country at this time, that it is more likely for a conservative to consider a progressive a friend than for a progressive to consider a conservative a friend. And I don't think conservatives should go in the direction of having a harder and harder time making friends with progressives, because we can never persuade the other side if we don't actually understand what they believe. And conservatives, by and large, tend to have an easier time understanding what a progressive believes, because conservatives are more willing to be friends with progressives. It's the progressives in this country have no idea what we believe. And when they go on TV and start talking about abortion, they have no idea how to articulate a pro-life position or what pro-lifers really believe, because they don't know any of us. I would much rather be friends with and be nice to and consider people in the civic sense good on the other side and have friendships with them. And who knows, maybe along the way the Holy Spirit can get involved and save them from themselves and their terrible position. But I know that by starting out by saying this person's evil and bad and I can't have anything to do with them because they believe in killing kids, well, in this country, that's 50% of the country. And I'd really like to make inroads with those people and draw them to our side.
National connections, local focus. Erick Erickson is